ego and doing that. But it just is a grounding mood for me. I was mowing yards on the weekend and doing daycare around football and baseball. And luckily, earlier in my school, I had done a lot of advanced classes and things like that. So my senior year, I didn't have to take too many classes really at all. I think I only took one or two. It was an interesting year, and I think the trick of it, the challenge was not letting people know. I didn't let people know that I was living out of my truck. I still remember.
How did you keep that a secret? Surely your close buddies, your teammates had to know.
Yeah, I think some knew. And my immediate friends, Matthew Lux, Zach Havner, Caleb Dudley, Hunter all day, those guys knew that I was living out of my truck. But for the most part, nobody knew. And, I wanted it that way because I didn't want the attention from that. Obviously, I might have enjoyed it and thought that it was cool that, I'm living out of my truck, but it wasn't something that I really wanted to be embarrassed about.
Is that something that fueled your fire? Because, having a great senior season, you helped lead your baseball team to the state championship. Excellent football player. You get offered to go play at LSU, one of the great baseball and football institutions in the country, to play both sports, Bo Jackson-esque. Talk to us a little bit about the LSU opportunity and the recruiting process to go to Baton Rouge.
It was Paul Maneri and was the main guy that had reached out to me at LSU. And it was late. Like I told you, even in my sophomore year of high school, I was very undersized. There wasn't much. I kind of took a growth spurt my sophomore going into my junior year. But, I went down there. I went to Arkansas. I talked to a couple other schools. I had several smaller D1 football offers, things of this nature. But I was born in Louisiana. I've always been kind of an LSU fan. And, when I went down there to see it, they were open and wanted me to do the two-way sports thing. And that was at the time I didn't want to give up football, and just turn to solely baseball unless there was a reason for it. So I went down there. I fell in love with it. I committed that trip to be a dual sport athlete. And, I think that it really hurt them because I think they lost their 4 big recruits in 2009. Every single one of us signed first round. So,
oh, wow.
Might have been a poor strategy on their part.
That's a challenge as a college recruiting coordinator, as a head coach. We hear that programs. That's why there's always so much shuffling going on. Junior college players being asked to step up to a D1 program because of the draft, and a college program can never count on their top recruits showing up on campus.
Yeah, it's almost like you got to kind of find that fringe player. Or that special kid that has a purpose that really wants to go. You look back, I didn't know what minor league baseball was about. And, I think that's one of the challenges is the public and players, even guys that are drafted, have no idea what they're getting into. So it's hard to tell a player that is 17 years old and draft him in the 30th round, here's your chance to go play. It's hard to tell them no. So I think for a college coach, it's extremely hard to figure out where's that fringe player. And also, we don't want to let this top player slip through our fingers if they don't go drafted.
Where was it that Coach Maneri first noticed Slade Heathcott? Was it a tournament you played that one summer? Or was it during your run as to the Texas High School State Championship? Do you recall a certain situation maybe where he came to see you play, or his recruiting coordinator?
It all started with D-back. Here, especially in Dallas, I remember talking with Tiny Thompson with the Giants and Mark Badgeko with the Yankees, a couple of scouts that I remember, but it all started that summer. And that was the first time when I came here. It kind of blew my mind that I was even going to come play here. And then second of all, I started having a lot of scouts come up to me.
And that was the summer before your senior year, correct?
Correct, yeah, in my junior.
Like you mentioned, kind of a late bloomer, undersized as a sophomore. So that's a great message to our audience. If kids aren't getting the calls, or they're not getting offers, or schools aren't sending them letters, as a sophomore or junior, stay patient.
No, stay patient. Stay with it. Like one thing I think that we have society, and I'll be the first to tell you, I think that everyone getting a trophy is one of the worst things we've ever implemented, for a multitude of reasons. As well as any parent out there, or adult life is full of trials and tribulations and hard times. Life is not an easy thing. It's a great thing, but it's not an easy thing. So, when we give these kids trophies their entire life and we tell them that everybody is a winner in baseball, it never teaches kids that fire by trial. Like, you're telling a kid that he deserves everything right now, even if he doesn't. There's nothing wrong with not being good at sports. That's the message that I hate that it sends to parents, is you give a kid a trophy, you're telling him that for him to be anything whatsoever or amount to somebody or to be the right thing, he has to be an athlete. Maybe athletes isn't his thing. Maybe he's going to find a cure for cancer. Maybe he's going to be a firefighter or a janitor. But why tell a kid that he has to play athletes to amount to anything? And that's all you're telling him, because we all have what we're good at. I can't play the guitar. I can't play the drums. I'm able, luckily, to hit a baseball.
Hey, I can't sing a lick.
There you go.
But I really applaud people that can.
Yeah, same. So with getting kids, stick with it. You're going to be told your entire life, and I hate to use a cheesy story, but look at Michael Jordan. You look through history, you have these people that were cut or didn't make their high school team, and here they are in the Hall of Fame. So for kids out there, it's not about right now. You have to realize that each of us and each of our times is going to come at a different time. And the only limits you have in life are the ones you decide. That's it.
Man, that's some good stuff there, Slade. This talk about your offer from the Yankees. Did you ever anticipate you would go 29th overall pick in the first round? Did that come as a total surprise to you? Or?
I remember vividly right where I was sitting and what I was doing when I got the call from my agent, kind of giving me an idea of what we were going to ask. And I remember him telling me 2-2 is what we're getting. And I was like, you're crazy. You're crazy. I was like, it's not going to happen. There's no way. And this was just, this had to have been months before the draft. So this all came on really fast. And here was this deal where they're telling me, well, you might go first round, whatever. And like, I don't even think I made varsity truly until my sophomore year, maybe, or junior year, maybe. So it's not like I was the star. Like, I had Josh Turley, I had Randall Fant, I had John Stiltson. Like, I had a group of guys that were really good at my high school that, between those 2 years, I think we've had 5 or 6 big leaguers.
Yeah, Texarkana is known to produce a lot of great athletes come out of that area. So
Michael Walker.
You were having to play behind a couple stellar guys. Huh?
Yeah, we had Michael Waka, not at Texas High, but in the Texarkana area, like Will Middlebrooks, Michael Waka, John Stiltson, myself, Josh Turley, Randall Fant. And I know that I'm forgetting something or some other people, but there's been a ton of players that have come out of that deal. So it was a hotbed in the Dallas and Texas, Oklahoma area.
Now let's talk about going through draft day when you saw were you there present at the draft?
No, so we had just left Baylor. We were doing a practice in my high school, so we were in the state championship. So the final game was the next day. We had stopped at Baylor, did our practice at Baylor, and they had just gotten to the hotel in Round Rock. So we had just pulled in, and probably 10 minutes later, we're all in one room, kind of had the draft on. I get the call. So I'm in a room with my entire high school team, which at the time, that was my family.
Oh, sure.
My family to me is a lot more than blood. I tell people that a lot. And if I consider you a friend, you're family to me. So I have a lot of acquaintances in life, not a whole lot of friends. But that's just because I'm going to go to battle with you. If you're a friend to me, you're family to me. So that was my family. So we got there, had it on the computer. And I got a call. I stepped out. It was Damon Oppenheimer telling me that they were going to draft me 29th. So by the time I had just gotten back in, I knew that what was happening, and there might have been 2 or 3 picks later. So it actually worked out well. I was in the hotel room with the entire team, and when it came across, it was pretty crazy.
I assume a couple of your teammates jumping up and down on the bed, everybody getting a little crazy, maybe a dog pile in the hotel room.
Yeah, it was nuts. And then, trying to, at the same time, I didn't want it to be a distraction. We're playing the state championship game the next day. My high school had never played for a state championship, and obviously in we're playing Corpus Christi Moody, which was the number 1 ranked team that year in the nation. So, it was a fine line of doing that, but also knowing that the next day we got to go. Let's go get it.
So you get drafted the night before the state title game, and then you go out and help your team win a state championship. Talk us a little bit about some of the highlights of that game and, your recollection of winning a state title here in Texas.
Yeah, so the biggest thing going in, that the question I got when I was playing with DBAT that summer and going through with the high school season, it's crazy because God played such a huge hand in what was going on. So many things lined up. We had the bird flu that year in Texas, so that pushed state playoffs back several weeks. Well, I had one of the classes I had to take, I'll keep it G-rated, but just an absolute jerk. I turned my paper in, no question, and he was like a class that you took 5 tests and there was 2 papers, and those were your final grades. So I had to turn in my final paper. He tried saying that I didn't turn it in, ended up flunking me. So I was on probation. I've never flunked a class in my life. And I was partying and doing all kinds of things. But anyways, I was on probation. The report ended up turning up. So if we wouldn't have had bird flu, I wouldn't have even played in the state championships at all. So that was huge. But so the game, the biggest thing that I was getting questions was, do you want to be a position player or a pitcher? That was my biggest thing in the Dallas offseason. Do you want to be a pitcher or do you want to be a position player? And I didn't know which one I wanted to do. I was throwing 95, 96 from the left side off the mound with 0 pitching experience. And, due to speed and arm and kind of the 5 tools things everybody was wanting as an outfielder. So I didn't know. I actually had a deal in place with the Orioles for 6 or 7 picks later, for actually a bigger deal than what I did with the Yankees. But that was the thing, was nobody knew which one I wanted to do. So I tore my ACL 6 months before the draft. So I tore my ACL and I'm rehabbing and kind of missed the first part of the game. So I only played 19 games my senior year.
Was that a football injury?
Yeah, football injury. So I tore my ACL, and I thought, I think LSU brightened up then because they were like, oh, we're getting him ACL 6 months before the draft. I ended up forging so Dr. Andrews did my surgery then. So Dr. Andrews actually done all 7 of my surgeries. But, I went and got my ACL done. I ended up forging his note. I couldn't forge where he wrote. I couldn't forge the pitching side because it crossed through the line on the paper for the line where you're writing it. So I couldn't white it out and cover over it. So at 3 months, I was able to forge my doctor's note from Andrews saying I was allowed to play the field and not pitch. So at 3 months, I was playing. 3.5 months, I was playing with no brace, but I still couldn't forge the pitching deal. So my senior year, I didn't pitch. Well, we're going in. It's a 2-1 ball game in the 7th, and in the 6th, Coach Welch, sent me down to the bullpen. So my only appearance.
You hadn't pitched at all.
No bullpens. No, I hadn't pitched since the previous year. So I actually closed the state championship game, 7th inning, 2-1 game, closed the 7th inning.
Well, that's storybook, Hollywood type ending there, Slade. You're a very confident young man. When you got called to go to the bullpen, any nervousness, any butterflies?
Yeah, so more goes into that. It was funny because I was actually Andy Ford was just up at the front. So I did the Aflac All-American game in 2018. Well, I had the MVP locked up. I go out. I was 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI or something like that, and I came in to close. So I was a two-way guy at the Aflac game. So I came in to close, blew the save. So my last appearance was almost a year prior to that, and I blew a save on TV. So at the time, I'm like, that's the only thing going through my head was, okay, I've got to figure out some way to get out of this.
We talk about it as baseball players, having those negative thoughts of the previous series, or you go back a previous year. For our audience, having those negative thoughts into your mind, what would you tell them to kind of clear the dome and think positive before they enter a game or they're asked to do something big, in the 7th inning?
Well, it goes back to Zig Ziglar had a line. You won't be able to do everything with a positive mindset, but you'll be able to do anything better with that positive mindset than you will with the negative, especially with baseball. Baseball is a very unique profession, in my opinion. You don't find very many jobs that you're that unsuccessful, and for 3 out of 10 you're a Hall of Famer. So